of a last minute planner. The org I saw for this in terms of happening, so I definitely want the main thing to be attachment styles, just because we haven't done any on that. But I do think a good way to lead into it is through like the way you start your book, in terms of like how like we all have these belief systems, and a lot of them, like I feel like it's a good way to go into like the attachment styles and like where a lot of these belief systems are formed. Like as you have written here, it's amazing. I love that you spoke about stimulus generalization. That's like our language, love language, and behavior analysis.
For sure.
We could talk about little Albert a little bit, because we teach that in our classes too. So it'll just,
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I love it. I like get off to stimulus and response generalization. It's like my expertise.
I'm going to actually quiz you on that in the podcast.
You should.
I'm gonna.
And then I'll quiz you.
Don't, because I hate that topic.
I know, because you always get it wrong.
Give me
Okay.
some good experimental design, measurement. I'm better.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. Are you going to do a review of the day now?
Let's just get it all done. We'll go quick.
Okay. Okay. I'll do the behavior principles at the end, though.
Okay, then if you're going to do that, I'll save the review for the end, too, because it takes 2 seconds. Okay, go.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, guys, it's Liat.
And Casey.
And we are here with episode 140. Casey, take it away.
I love a good round number. When we hit those, like, finish out like a set of 10, I feel really accomplished. But, all right,
Really, as you should.
I have 2 rhymes today. You guys know that I love to match the rhyme to kind of what we're talking about. And we've talked so much about my childhood trauma that I just had to make a little bit of a self-deprecating rhyme to begin with, but there'll be a funnier one after. Okay, episode 140. My attachment style is 50% anxious, probably because in my childhood, the adult care I received was 0.
Okay, we're diving in.
We're diving in. We do not pussyfoot around anything. Okay.
Also, I mean, I want to be feeling bad for you, but I think you just rhymed 0 with 0 again.
No. Yeah, I did.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. So you still.
Okay. Here's a better.
Here's going.
One. Okay. Second rhyme. Episode 140. Stop dating D-bags because you, my queen, are a hero.
I love that.
Nice job. Okay.
It kind of talks about like both parts of the podcast we're going to talk about.
Totally. No, you did. You hit on it all. Nice work, Case. Just, I think I've told you this before, that the same words like shoe and shoe don't rhyme. Shoe and Pikachu rhyme.
Perfect. I might do next time 140 and rhyme it with O.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, wow. Casey's on fire with her rhymes.
And I'm on fire with this guest. I am ready to go. And with that, wait, so you don't want me doing a review?
No, we'll do it after.
Okay, fine. So our guest today, I am super excited about. I have been following her for a while on Instagram. And I was like, dude, well, I've been saying for a while, we need someone to come on and talk about the attachment styles. Carol, who like does the Study Notes app with us, she always is doing this research on different things. She sent me the book Attached a while back. I never read it until I read it one Shabbat. I had time and I literally read the whole book in one sitting. And that's when I got into really understanding these attachment things. And then I said, dude, we've got to do a topic on this. And I was like, I follow this Dr. Morgan Anderson. I wonder if she would come on our podcast. So we've reached out. If you don't reach out, the answer is always no. If you reach out, it's sometimes no. But this answer was a yes. So here we have Dr. Morgan Anderson. Casey's going to give an intro.
I will do a very quick, cute one, and then she's going to, dive into herself. But Dr. Morgan Anderson, she's a clinical psychologist, an attachment theory expert. She's an author and the host of top-rated podcast, Let's Get Vulnerable, which I did spend a good portion of my morning listening to. And I commend you for being a one-woman show most of the time. I don't know how you do it. You're great. She's got a shit ton of followers on Instagram, downloads, and the book we're going to talk about today, best-selling book, Love Magnet, How to Get Off the Dating Roller Coaster. Dr. Morgan is a powerful voice for women's healing and a thought leader in the relationship space. All right, now that I've said all that, Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I love what y'all are doing, and I know we're going to have a great conversation.
Absolutely.
I have so much to talk about here. So I'm actually holding, do you want me to call you Dr. Morgan or Morgan?
You can call me Morgan. Go for it.
I just feel like we're having like a girls chat over here.
Yeah,
But,
call me Morgan.
keep it
for
cash.
sure.
But not that I do not admire the D. Like,
I know
that work goes into it.
For sure.
I mean, the DR, not the D. I mean, you know what I mean. Okay, whatever. So
different topic.
I'm holding this book, and if you guys haven't seen it, by the way, we already commented on her amazing shots from the book. It seems like people are getting on the podcast lately have amazing people taking their photo shots, which is like Casey and I really need some help with that. That's why ours is a cartoon on our podcast cover. But until we're in the same location, we'll have to just stick with that. But first of all, can you tell us kind of what urged you to write this book, Love Magnet?
Yeah, so I had my own dating experience in my 20s, lots of ups and downs, the roller coaster dating life that I talk about. I went through like so much pain, and I just knew that I wanted to make something that my like 20 something self would have enjoyed reading, like a book that like really would have changed my life and helped me get on the right path. So I really was writing this for my early 20s, 20 something self. Not that, I mean, this will help you no matter what age you are, but it's like, this is exactly what I needed. And this book would have helped me avoid so much pain. So I just knew, okay, I have to get this out. And I love the book Attached. It is a wonderful book on attachment theory. And it feels a little bit researchy. Like it's not as fun and you can't relate to it quite as much. So I wanted to make a book that was about attachment theory, but it was also fun and would make you laugh out loud while you read it.
Yeah, you definitely do. Like the guy that you went out with who like carried a
doorknob.
A doorknob. That's amazing. And it's like only in hindsight when you look back, it's like, what?
Yeah, right.
You guys have to check it out to see it. But I mean, also what you're saying, like you wish you had this in your 20s. But I'm noticing with a lot of my friends are like, I'm now 32, so like a lot of us are like in our 30s. It seems like a lot of people are kind of like finding out about like, let's say maybe these attachment styles or this and that, or like, like they've already like gone through the ringer, or I mean, maybe like if it's the best, if like things worked out for you and you didn't happen to know along the way, but like maybe if you're like going through these things, it seems like people are kind of finding out in their 30s. So like if someone could explain it to you earlier on, also like potentially while the dating pool is larger, also, so then you have like two things in your favor would be nice. So, and you've definitely done this in here. And you start your book off with a lot of things about our belief systems. And I feel like our podcast has like seems to be like veering always towards trauma, but it just seems like every person's you could delete that. I feel like everyone's fucked up. No, I'm kidding. Everyone is carrying some trauma, and it seems like a lot of stuff is always coming back from that. And you talk about these beliefs that we have and kind of being able to make the unconscious conscious, as you call it. Can you talk about how these beliefs affect us?
Absolutely. And I think this is something that doesn't get talked about enough in like a traditional, like if you're meeting with a therapist, you may or may not talk about your belief system. That's just kind of the reality. But beliefs are the core of everything. They're basically our unconscious template for why we do what we do, why we're attracted to who we're attracted to. And if you're not aware of what your beliefs are, then there's no way for you to change them. But of course, they get developed through your experiences, through models that you have in early childhood, and your beliefs start developing as soon as you're born. Like you can have a whole belief system created by the time you're 7. And I talk about in the book, like some of those beliefs are going to help you survive through your childhood. They're going to help you do what you need to do in relationships as you're growing up. But then as you become an adult, if you have that same belief system that you had as a child, it's most likely going to trip you up and it's going to sabotage you from getting what you want in your adult life. So I really truly believe that everyone needs to examine their belief systems, beliefs about themselves, beliefs about relationships, beliefs about money, beliefs about career. Like we all need to look at our belief systems and just make sure that we're consciously choosing what it is that we want, right? Because beliefs, as you all know, you're in behavior, like beliefs impact thoughts, behaviors, emotions. It's like, it's what's driving the car of your life. And you don't want your 7-year-old self driving the car for your life, right? Like you don't.
That's a great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's just listening, potentially, and you're studying for the exam, for your BCBA, if you guys are listening to this, we're talking about selectionism, right? Selectionism in terms of operant selectionism, like how we choose things that serve us, right? So, like if we tell a joke and people laugh at it, we're probably going to tell that joke again, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we used aloe vera on a sunburn and it worked for us, we're probably going to use that again. And these are things that these beliefs you have did serve you at some time, whether it's for, I know in here you said for different things, potentially like to protect yourself from pain. If you,
Survival in general.
yeah, like just
Survival.
surviving.
Yeah. Connection is survival. I think a lot of times we forget that. It's not just a roof over your head. It's not food. As a child, you need connection with your caregiver. So yeah, maybe if you had an emotionally unavailable parent, you learned that I can't express my needs. And if I'm happy all the time, if I show positive emotion all the time, that's how I create peace in my home. And that's how I connect with my parent. Oh, hi.
Hi. I just raised my
me.
hand. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
So like that's just not going to serve you in your adult relationships, because if we're not showing up authentically, then we can't maintain relationships over a long period of time. It just makes a relationship not sustainable. So yes, I love what you're saying though about what was it that you called it? Selectionism?
Selectionism. We talk about, we talk about it over, we talk about phylogenetic selectionism, which is like why
Darwinism
giraffes have,
and survival of the
like
species.
Yeah, like why giraffes have long necks. That happens over generations. But we also talk about things like operant over our own life through our own learning history. And like it might have served us to be happy and smiley all the time as a kid. But now it's like that's really fucking you over in your relationship when you're like really so unhappy because you're just smiling at everything and making everything okay. So it really comes into acknowledging these that
The beliefs.
I mean the problem is that a lot of beliefs we look at as facts. I mean, I've done a lot of therapy in my life, so I've done a lot of CBT. So this like reminds me of a lot of that. And it's like you look at these things as it's a fact, right? So
it's so interesting because I was just on vacation with my family, my aunts and cousins, and Matt, my husband, he's definitely seen me not be the happy Casey, and he calls it when I see red, which is like, get the fuck out of my way. But I don't show anyone. I've never really shown anyone in my family. Liat's probably seen it, but it was just funny because I was praised. All my childhood, I remember the one praise I always got from my parents and my people close to me was, she's such a happy kid. She's such a happy baby. She's so happy. Oh my God, Casey, big cheeks and blah, 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 blah. So like, I've always been that way. And my aunt was saying when we were on vacation last week, she's like, oh my God, Casey's the happiest ever. She's never in a bad mood. She's always just happy giving. And that's like laughing. And he's like, you haven't seen the other side of her. And I was like, it made me think like, I really don't show that side to anyone. And it's a protection. If I'm happy and I'm smiling and I'm this, then no one has to ask me what's wrong, and I don't have to talk about things. And yeah.
It's like everything we do because we think we need to do it in order to be loved, or we could be abandoned if we don't do it. For me, one of my beliefs was I need to achieve in order to be loved. Hello, I got a doctorate for a reason. Like achieve as much as possible, be successful, and that's how I'll be loved. And turns out my relationship with my dad did not change after I got my doctorate. And, it was actually having like very real conversations with him and trying to work through stuff that had happened. And I think like it took me going through that and realizing like, oh, I did all these things I thought I had to do and I didn't get the result that I thought that I was going to get. So I need to change this belief system because this is not working for me.
And you talk about that, you use a lot of the word of comfort
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about these belief systems and survival mode. Can you, like, in what context you're talking about that in? Because I know you give the example of like when you put down your bag of Cheetos and you actually like look at what you're quote unquote comfortable with. Are you, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of times, I think a lot of us are in a state of we're struggling or we're suffering because we actually have these things that we're doing that we're numbing with, whether it's junk food or Netflix binge or whatever it is, right? And we're numbing our emotions away, but we're just like comfortable because that's what we're used to. That's how we think life is, or that's our beliefs about what life is or what relationships are. And actually, you know, if we just went through the temporary pain of acknowledging the deeper things there, our deeper beliefs or the ways that we're hurting, then we can get on the other side of suffering. But a lot of people are just very comfortable in their day-to-day routine. And they're not actually looking at, well, how does this make me feel? Or are my needs getting met? Or is this what I really want for my life? And I think even if it's mildly annoying or we're not getting the results we want, as humans, we're still going to pick what we're familiar with. You all know this. Like,
I mean,
if
this is
we
even based
are,
on like Viktor Frankl. He even spoke about with his
yeah,
book in the
Man's Search
Holocaust,
for
like people
Meaning.
like, yeah, like people would like continue to stay in like the hell of like what they knew in the Holocaust because they were like more
Yes.
scared of like what could be
Yeah.
wild.
Humans, we don't like change. We don't like change. So, you know, for me, for example, why did I date emotionally unavailable men for over a decade? Well, I knew how it would go. Very comfortable for me to know, you know, and this is all unconscious, but comfortable for me to know that we really wouldn't have to get to a deep, deep, intimate place and I would have to fully commit and I would be fully seen, right? Like I would rather have a surface level, not a deep commitment, because that was more comfortable. And relationships ending was comfortable for me. Like I was used to that chaos, right? And I think it took me a long time to realize that I was choosing emotionally unavailable people because I wasn't comfortable with true intimacy.
Wow. So you like almost like you wanted there to be like that disconnect, essentially, like
Unconsciously,
because
yeah.
then you're having to be vulnerable when you're opening up to that
Yes.
intimacy. Like now you're almost having to like face these
Oh,
quote
yeah.
unquote demons that are like you've been able to push under the rug for so long.
I loved being the people I was dating. Like I wanted to be their therapist. That was so comfortable for me. Like, let me just know everything about you and support you. And I don't really want to be seen because I had deep beliefs here, you know, back to belief systems. I had beliefs that I wasn't good enough and there was something wrong with me. And if somebody really knew who I was, they would leave me. So I wasn't comfortable with people who were emotionally available. So I would only date people where I felt like, okay,
You
I get to be
fix
their
them.
therapist. Yeah, I get to fix them. So
Casey,
I'd
I
love
see
to
you pointing
bill
at
for
me. I see you pointing
hellos.
at me. I love helping anyone that I think that there could be a solution for, but I don't think it's because I don't want them to see me. Like I want them to effing see me too.
No,
And
no.
I was
The
very,
second she got to the second part of it, I was like, okay,
I was like, "Are you
I'm
fucking
pulling the
kidding? I
finger
am the
back.
most." I was like, "Yeah, I am the most
But I was
vulnerable,
saying
open
you are
person."
the one that like you love to help people and get to the root of things and you don't beat around the bush and you are like, okay, you have an issue, I want to hear everything about it and I'm going to fix you, I'm going to get you a therapist. I just sent you 35 therapists, they're all in your area, they take your insurance. Here you go. I'll get, did you follow up? Did you email? Show me the email. I need the sent receipts. Okay, great. When's your appointment? Is it on the calendar? Like very
So
like,
overfunctioning for people. And sometimes there's beliefs. I see this a lot with women who are very high achieving. There's beliefs about like, ooh, I need to function for my partner or like take care of them. And then that way they won't leave me. It's usually unconscious, but it's this belief of like, that's how I maintain a relationship. I overfunction for them.
oh, That's me too.
This is so many women. I mean, like,
I
we just
know,
get in
yeah.
that role. Like, we do the mental load, the emotional load,
Like, as
they
much as
run the
it like
house.
it annoys
Yeah.
me sometimes when I'm like annoyed that I have to do all these things, it also
Annoys
like
you when no one asks you to do it.
well, no, not even that. It serves a
Security.
purpose. Yeah, it serves a purpose where I'm like, ha, you wouldn't even eat if I wasn't here. Like, ha ha ha. Like a weird like
Yeah,
mind.
Casey's like, I don't know what I just like. I feel so bad leaving you here in Dallas. Like one time,
I
and I
know
was like,
you.
and I was like, I'm gonna miss you. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna miss you so much. I love you being here. But then I started realizing it wasn't just like I'm gonna miss you. It was like I'm just like you're not gonna eat. You're
I
not
was like,
gonna.
are you gonna drink water? I'm like,
Your kid Kobe's gonna be sitting in his diaper for days at a time. I'm like, bitch, you know my life runs when you're not here. I like fucking love you, and I'm gonna miss you too. But I didn't realize like what she was saying behind it, you know. But okay, now I'm just reading the book. I saw a word in here that like just gave me an instant boner, and that word is stimulus generalization. And you talk about the little Albert experiment, which we talk about a lot too, and well, if anyone doesn't know the little Albert experiment, you know, it's with Watson, and he's a psychologist who had little Albert, the little boy, and anytime that he introduced, tell me if I say it wrong because I like say it so much that
You're
it's kind of
doing
something I might have.
great.
Okay, so anytime that he presented like it was a white bunny rabbit. I've changed the animal a few times in class when I teach it sometimes, so I'm not sure like which. But okay, let's
A white bunny
white
rabbit.
bunny
You got
rabbit.
it.
And anytime he would play like a loud bang, like a loud noise. And so this was paired, right? This is that respondent conditioning. It was paired that anytime that he'd see the bunny rabbit, the loud noise. So now he associated that this white bunny rabbit, right, is essentially, let's say, like induce fear, right?
now
Whereas
evoke
before it
that
was a
same
neutral stimulus. Yeah, it was a neutral stimulus, and now it's a conditioned stimulus that elicits that same, you know,
Response. Yeah.
response. So you talk about that in relation to pain.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about
Yeah.
that?
It's so funny. I feel like I need to reread my book, but I'm like,
Oh,
it
it's
was the
okay. I
name.
can tell you word for word. Don't worry.
Was the name of that chapter "When Love Is a Hot Stove"?
This is
That's
like
what I
the
wanted to
title.
oh
call
no,
it.
no, because yes. Okay. Well, see, you really know your stuff so well. The name of that chapter is Belief About Relationships Rewire Your Brain to Support a Great Relationship. But the top of that section, like right where it comes from, it says avoiding the burn of love. Does your brain think love is a hot stove?
Oh, see, I knew it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
um,
And you talk about
so
what exactly happens when the brain associates
yeah.
something with pain. There you go.
So this is so many people. You all know these people where they were in a relationship and they got burned. It ended really badly. They got cheated on, or they gave their heart to someone and then the person said, I can't do this. I'm not capable of it. Like, you know, there's so many ways that we can get hurt in love, right? And what can happen is we take that pain from past relationships and we bring it with us into future dating experiences. And maybe you and your ex went for ice cream on your third date. And then now you're going to ice cream with the new person you're seeing, and your heart's racing, and you're like, oh my God, this is going to end the same way. You know, he's going to cheat on me. Like, there can be things that you experience in a new relationship that then you're connecting to your past. So you're just, your nervous system gets totally worn out. You get all anxious and you're predicting that the relationship's going to end in the same way, because you know that as humans we're always trying to predict how things are going to end, so we take past experiences. But here's the thing: new relationship, new experiences. And I always remind people too, when you show up differently, you get to have different outcomes. All the women I work with in my program, you know, like, hey, we're changing the equation. You can have a different experience. So it's just so important not to take your past relationships into your present dating life.
Totally. And if you guys are thinking, that is, well, exactly what happened with little Albert, right? He would see a fluffy cotton ball and he would elicit respondent behavior that increased heart rate. Then he would see a white
puffy
pillow.
coat.
Yeah, a puffy coat, exactly. Whatever it was, he had, generalized, like all these multiple stimuli would evoke the same or elicit the same response, depending on what we're talking about here. You
I
guys
also
know.
love
I
what
don't
you
want to be
said.
too literal with text, but
She's
then
just
I
so
just sorry,
smart.
Casey. Before we
Okay.
get there, I just want to get into. So that's that stimulus generalization, right? Of like all these multiple stimuli are going to evoke the same response.
Yes.
But we engage in something called overgeneralization, is what exactly Morgan had just said.
Yes.
Right? You're like, oh, anyone who takes me to an ice cream shop means they're going to be a serial killer because my ex was a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whereas maybe that's not the case. But
Right.
we're always looking to organize information in our brains and protect ourselves. So we do that. And you even use these terms in your book, which gave me a lot of excitement.
I love the psychology of learning. So, right up your alley. But yeah, it's fascinating, right? It's like our brain is doing that to try to protect us. Like we're just using our past experiences, but it can totally sabotage your dating life and getting a different outcome. We have to allow things to be different, and we also have to make sure that this goes back to beliefs as well, but just that we are allowing ourselves to be attracted to different people.
Right. That is important because usually what we don't want to be attracted to, at least what I've seen, like a lot of read, it's like sometimes you go back to the very thing that again, right? Like you
Yes,
said.
which goes to Freud, where we talk about repetition compulsion. I don't know if you remember that in the book, but repeating patterns with the unconscious wish to get a different result. This is my favorite thing from Freud. A lot of what he says, I'm like, but I love that theory because it's so true. I see it play out in relationships all the time. We have this unconscious wish that this time I can get this person to love me. It'll make up for everything I experienced in the past.
Oh, wait. So is that why, like, let's say you have a dad who's emotionally unavailable and like drinks and whatever and this and that, why you'll go essentially, you're like, oh, I want nothing like that. But then you end up with something like that because you're like, but this version of my dad, I'm going to make love me.
Yeah.
Is that how
And
it works?
unconsciously, oh, for sure. And the crazy thing
Okay.
about this is you do it unconsciously. And yeah, your brain has this unconscious wish that says, well, hey, if it turns out differently this time, it's going to make up for everything I experienced in my relationship with my dad. And then, of course, it doesn't turn out differently. It ends up the same. This person can't love you. They can't show up for you. They're emotionally unavailable. And what happens? You feel like your life is over when the relationship is over. And that's because you're not only mourning the relationship, you're also mourning what you didn't get in childhood because you just had connected the two. So that's why we have these huge responses to breakups.
Perfect. So, and some of these things and these that are happening, you talk about these. I'm just going to give some example of these beliefs that you may develop, and someone listening might be like, these are quoted by you in your book.
Thank you.
Over here. I know you haven't read it lately, so I'll tell you what it says. It's a great book, by the way. You really should read it. It's a great book. It's a great book. You should read it. Yeah.
I heard the offer's, pretty good.
Here we go. So
she's cool.
Here are some common unhelpful beliefs. 1, relationships never work out for me. I need to achieve or be productive in order to earn love. Everyone I date will leave me / cheat on me / hurt me badly. I'll always be abandoned. My needs don't matter. I should focus on pleasing my partner. Love is unavailable to me. I'll never feel adored or desired. I'm not good enough for the type of man I want to date. I'm not pretty enough for a good relationship. Okay, there's more, but I just went through a lot of them. But there are.
These are so sad as we're reading these. I'm like, this is just so sad, But I know this is how so many of us have lived our lives. But it's just it's a terrible way to go about life to have these unconsciously running the show.
But if you're able to identify these, and then you could get into your other exercises, which you have of like doing a relationship inventory of like, if I realize that this belief is controlling my thinking, then you ask yourself, like, do I feel safe in my relationship, emotionally, physically, etc.? This is like hard work to do because it's like it's scary. Like,
It's
even in
It's
my past
painful. It's
relationships,
going through the
being like,
pain. Yeah.
wait, am I happy? Wait, I believe I should be happy based on like what it is on paper and what everyone else sees, but like, am I? That's when this gives me like a little bit of a stomach ache, which I already had today in general. Were my needs being met? Could I express my needs and boundaries? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So now, not blah, 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 but it's just that I really want to get to the attached part of all this. So this leads us to attachment styles. And can you just, if you were going to give like a brief summary of like what attachment styles are for someone who's like never heard of this, topic,
Yes, for
what can you
sure.
tell us?
And I love this topic. I nerd out on this constantly. This is like my favorite thing. I always tell people that attachment theory is the missing piece of the dating puzzle. It really can help you understand a lot. So, attachment theory, if I just had to sum it up really quick, is the science of understanding why you do what you do in relationships and why you are attracted to the people that you're attracted to. It originated in the 1950s. John Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth, they had baby monkeys with their parents, and they separated the mom from the baby. And in the research, they realized that when the mom was apart from the baby would prefer a terry cloth over food because the terry cloth reminded the baby of the mother. So they started to realize like, oh, connection is so important, right? And then of course it led to parent-child attachment theory research, and then romantic relationship attachment theory being applied to how do you pick your romantic partner. And there's been so much research. The book Attached is a great book. Now I'm going on a tangent. Am I good to go on a
No,
tangent?
you're not. I love it. Keep talking.
Okay.
I feel like
So Attached, I love Attached. And one of the ways that I disagree with it is they talk about your attachment style being pretty set. Like, okay, you're anxious. You're going to be anxious forever. Okay, you're avoidantly attached.
it is kind of like that.
Yeah.
It kind of is like, okay, you're anxious attachment style. You need to find someone secure. Okay.
Yes.
You need to find someone secure. So it's like, okay, so
That's the
this will
issue
make
I
sense.
have with that book.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
and subsequent research has proven this as well. And gosh, I've proven this with the hundreds of clients I've helped, that you really can learn how to move towards a more secure attachment style. And I know we're going to talk about the attachment styles and what they each mean. But I just want everyone to know you're not doomed, quote unquote, with whatever attachment style you have. You can become more secure. It's possible.
So I read the book. I mean, not that long ago, but I've also read like a lot of books in between. But I know when they were talking about like they saw how different. So we could talk about the 4 attachment styles now, but I also want to talk about what those look like I mean, we're going to talk about it in terms of relationship, but what that looked like in terms of how the children actually responded when they were away from their mother.
Strange. Yeah. Yep.
I thought that was so interesting. Okay, so which attachment style would you like to start with?
We can talk about anxious attachment for sure. Yeah. Anxious attachment in the parent-child studies, when the parent leaves, the child is not able to self-soothe. So the mom leaves the room and the child is hysterical. They're not able to regulate their emotions. They're crying. When the parent leaves, it's as if the parent is gone. They're not able to internalize that, oh, my parent's still here, right? Like they're completely emotionally distraught. So then we move on to avoidant attachment style, which is kind of the other end of the spectrum here. And I want to note that all of us have percentages of all of these styles typically, but you have one that you're more likely to spend time in. So think about that. There's one style that's probably your predominant style, but you can also have strategies from other styles. But with avoidant attachment, parent leaves the room and the child may or may not even engage, may or may not notice. They're kind of like, they may cry for just a moment, but then they're just off playing, they're doing their own thing. It's as if they don't really care. They're hyper independent.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a disorganized attachment style. And this is where you have a mix of anxious and avoidant strategies. And this is a child who could be crying hysterically when the mom leaves at one moment and then all of a sudden off playing, and it's like as if nothing's happened. So they just kind of go back and forth between the two. And what's fascinating with disorganized attachment, when the parent would come back into the room, the child would sometimes even be angry. They might kind of like hit the parent, because this style, which is only 5% of the population, is associated with childhood trauma. So it just makes it really hard for children to even make sense of, well, how do I engage and get my needs met? It's really confusing with disorganized attachment.
And then bringing us to
secure, where we all want to be, right? So in the parent-child studies with secure attachment, what would happen? The parent leaves the room and the child is upset and they may cry for a little bit, but they're able to self-soothe and reassure, and they can regulate their emotions. And when the parent returns, the child is happy to see the parent. And that's, we could talk about that in dating too, but that's where we all want to be, where of course we're connected and we value others, but we also are able to self-soothe and take care of ourselves and be independent. So we have both connection and taking care of ourselves.
It's almost like this like spectrum of, I'm going to have a full effing meltdown if someone leaves me, to I don't give a shit, which isn't healthy either, to I'm upset and I'm acknowledging that, and now I'm okay and I can like be independent.
So it's almost like the secure sits in the middle.
Yeah,
right?
Secure. Yes.
Like you care, but you're able to like regulate yourself, as opposed to like, oh, then I don't give a shit. I get it. You're gone. You're going to be gone. I'm independent. I can do this myself anyways. Or like, you're never
I
coming
need
back
you,
for
but
me.
I'm okay if you're gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I think what's really important to realize is that with both anxious and avoidant styles, they both have fears of intimacy. They're both really scared of being close to people. But they deal with the fears in a different way, and the fears are a little bit different.
Okay, so now let's take those, now that we understand where and kind of where, which this is when we talk about external validity, right? Like there was these studies done back then. And then when we talk about external validity, again, for anyone studying, sorry if I sound boring in between, Morgan. I
love it. No, I
okay,
love
in
it.
case it like helps someone who's studying. We talk about external validity, right? Where we do like, well, initially started with, they saw something with monkeys. They're like, let's see if this applies to human. Let's see if we could apply the same concept. Then they looked at children and their moms, right? Then seems like who came along? We say John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth. And they're like, let's look at this in terms of relationships, right? And that is why we do studies, to look at that external validity later, how it could apply to other things. And I'm sure they'll use this later on for, dog owner and owner relationships. You never know,
Oh my God, Pavlov is 100% anxious attachment.
Yeah, my dog totally is. Yeah, true. So let's talk about what these look like in relationships. And so the order you went in, I believe you started off with anxious.
Yes. So with anxious attachment, you have prioritized the relationship above yourself. You have fear of abandonment, and you will make sure that you do whatever you can to try to get reassurance from your partner. So reassurance is knowing that, okay, we're going to make this work. We're together. Everything's good between us, right? Anxious attachment, no matter how much reassurance you get, you still don't really feel good about the relationship. So you could have a partner telling you like, yeah, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, but you're actually not going to feel good probably until you see them again and you're like actually in their presence. And
like you're like in your head questioning it.
Yeah, you're questioning the relationship. You're catastrophizing. You're already imagining how it's going to end. Like you are thinking about the relationship all the time. This is the person where maybe you send like 17 text messages to your partner when they don't respond, right? Like you're very much just going to keep asking for reassurance even if you're not getting it. Yeah. definitely.
I was gonna say I had a really my ex before my husband. And just all these things that you're saying, these behaviors, I would always in my head think of when it was going to end and how I was going to react and what, like, who's going to get what friends. And it was like I'd play that movie in my head more than I'd play a movie of us being together. We didn't even live together yet. Like, it was almost like a comfort thing for me to be like, you're gonna be just fine. Like, oh, you tonight he didn't invite you over. Well, guess what? You went and got a bottle of wine and cheese, and you're having yourself a little cheese party, and you can do that too when you break up. And like, I would always do this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Such a cope. Yeah, it's just a way of coping, right? Like, we think about the attachment styles. You have these ways of coping that are not necessarily helpful to you. And I will say with anxious attachment, once again, you're just going to devalue your own needs and you're going to really focus on what your partner needs. This also looks like those of us who like take on our partner's hobbies. Like my boyfriend is a fly fisherman. If I was, if I had anxious attachment, I'd be trying to learn how to fly fish, like getting the reels and like wearing the fly fishing outfits. And thank God I'm securely attached and I'm not going to buy any of that crap because I don't want to fly fish. Okay.
Oh God. You're just like
literally,
literally
Macy loves NASCAR races and mini boat races.
It's
Sorry,
just,
you, like, literally
she's
just
laughing
love
so hard because like that is
No,
absolutely
you kind of
me.
after a while, you kind of like.
I've gotten
maybe
better,
I don't
but
love it. She used to be like, "What do you mean? I love tiny boat races. It's like the best. Nothing better than sitting with a lot of stinky guys inside of a trailer, pulled up, eating hamburgers, hot dogs with Cheetos on it."
chili. I'm dying. I'm literally, and you guys, if you're listening, this is also a video you'll see, but I'm literally tearing because it's so funny. When you like actually call yourself out or get called out, you have to laugh because you're like, holy shit. Like, that was Casey. Wow.
That was just too funny.
together,
Because
girl.
I know, but and
it
it shows how far you've come. Because I
Yes.
used to be like, dude, do you even fucking like going to like bumblefuck North Carolina to like watch a tiny? She's like, it's the best. Of course I do. I mean, I'm with all Matt's NASCAR friends who fart and burp the entire time, and we eat corn dogs. And I'm like, this sounds fucking horrid. Like, I can't imagine you liking that. She's like, but
Well, there's that
wow, she
devaluing
laughed.
own needs to inflate the
Right,
other person.
devaluing your
Oh, you
own
got
needs.
so much better at that.
I have.
so
Oh,
much
totally.
better.
And now, Matt knows when I'll go with him and when I won't. It's like if it
there's
serves me, I will.
compromise. There's like with secure attachment, it's like, okay, I understand that's important to you. And there's things that are important to me. For example, my boyfriend, when he'll go fish, I'll bring a book with me and I love being outside and I'll sit on the beach and read my book and he's fishing. And it's this beautiful compromise. We're both getting our needs met. We're spending time together. So there's ways to still engage and get your needs
100%.
met.
And that's like what I've found is Matt now knows there's only one boat race I like to go to, and it's in Canada because I can go to Niagara Falls, I can read, and there's a private beach.
See?
And that's my side, and he can do his boat racing. But it took a while to get there.
Well, I love it. I'm excited for you.
Thanks,
Me
girl.
too.
So is Liat. Let me.
Okay, should we go to the second attachment style?
Yeah.
Okay. So with avoidant attachment, the deep fear is that I'm going to lose myself and I'm going to lose my independence. And I'm actually terrified of having to depend on other people because people have let me down so much. So I don't really like being close to people or depending on people. And a lot of times with avoidant attachment, we're going to find other parts of our life that we're much more comfortable investing into, such as career. This is a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm just too busy with my career. I have no time for dating. And that's actually what you're just more comfortable with, right? And then a lot of times with avoidant attachment, this is someone where you went on a great date with them. You thought it was going awesome. You laughed. You had a great date. And then you don't hear from them for like 3 weeks. And then
you told them you enjoyed it and they run.
Yeah. As soon as you're like, that was great. Nothing, right? Like, so, and I'm exaggerating, but like very avoidantly attached people, they do this. They drop in, they drop out. And it can be so hard for someone with anxious attachment because you already have all these beliefs about people, not being available and you have to work hard to earn love. And then it's getting confirmed by somebody with avoidant attachment.
And isn't that like literally like the like if you're anxious, then you're like looking for this reassurance all the time, like trying to ask for this love, and that's like literally the one thing that is like like
Harder.
nothing could scare the avoidant person more. Right?
Yes. And I think one of the things I like, because I feel like avoidantly attached people get like a bad rep. And I always want to say, hey, they're doing the best they can. A lot of times with avoidant attachment, they never learned how to even tune into themselves. Like they couldn't tune into themselves because their childhoods were too chaotic. There was no room for them to have emotions, right? Or tune into themselves. So if they can't tune into themselves, they can't tune into you, right? And I think it's important to realize it's about capacity. Avoidantly attached people do want connection. They just don't know how to do it. They don't have the emotional capacity to do it. Can they learn? Absolutely. Can they be willing to grow? Absolutely. They have to want to.
So
how can you make them want to? I'm just kidding.
No. So I have dated someone in the past who, like, things did not end for bad reasons. Like, literally just because it was like at a certain point, I was like, okay, like, is this gonna like progress anymore? Like, I'm sorry. It is so clear to me that you love me. Like, I have no question about it. Like, anyone who sees this externally, like, there is such a love between us. It is like so clear and obvious. And like, but anytime it comes to like talking about something like being progressively, it's like a genuine like place of like complete fear. Like, I can't talk about this. Like, I literally like there's nothing more horrible to me to talk about than that. And it's like while in this relationship, I knew I sounded like crazy to other people. I'd be like, even my therapist, I'd be like, no, you don't get it. Like, I I am I come from like a I would say in any test I've taken, like, I am securely attached. I will tell someone when I love them. I could do my own thing. I'm like, I love you. I think you are amazing. I don't need them to tell me every second. But when I'm loved, I feel loved. So, like, to me, it was like, okay, what's there to see here? We both love each other. You're amazing to me. I'm amazing to you. You fit in perfect over here, you know? And then it was like, but I don't like, it was as if I mean, also, I am someone who, like, literally, like, has, like when I love someone or something or anything, I, like, feel the need I need to tell them, like, "I just fucking love you. I just want you to know I think you are amazing, and I just, like, see you for who you are," and it's and that's, like, literally the opposite of what someone needs to hear, and it's not because 'cause I'm saying it because I need them to say it back. It's because I just feel the need that I wanna express how I feel because I am so communicative about what I feel. If something's off, I will say I feel it's off, but it was so hard for me always because, like, every single thing that this says here,
Mhm.
I'm like, it'd be things like, "I wanna take care of you. I wanna be there for you." But, like, you hate feeling like you're being helped by anyone.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, I mean, is and, like, I mean, I don't know, are people who are avoidant attachment, do they wanna be like this?
No. The wild thing about avoidant attachment is they really believe they're bad at relationships. Like they just think they're really bad at relationships and they wish it could be different. And once again, back to beliefs, they act in ways that confirm their beliefs that they're bad at intimacy.
They're trying to prove that in the sense of
Yeah.
fucking up or telling you exactly what you don't want to hear, but they're like, well, I told you the truth, so but it's really
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. You all have heard the classic line, "You're too good for me." Classic avoidant
Totally.
attachment. Like they're just like, I can't put in this work. I'm not a good partner. I'm bad at this. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to be vulnerable, right? Once again, they can't even be vulnerable with themselves, so they can't be vulnerable with other people. Like the world of emotions is just too scary.
Yeah.
So you'd rather, like, avoid them at all costs.
And I will say, like, once again, we could change. I have helped couples who have anxious avoidant dynamics. I've helped them work to create a secure connection. There is absolute room for change, but both people have to want to do it. And they have to want to do it together.
Okay, so that leaves us on from avoidant. This is hyper independence.
And hyper independence. Yes, we didn't talk about that. I think hyper independence is so key in our culture right now. We see so many women this way too, where they're like, I don't need a man, I'm independent, I don't need anyone. And it's this belief of like, I can take care of myself, right? And where it feels painful to depend on people or to admit that we need help. And as you all know, interdependence is what's secure. We'll get there. We can depend on ourselves, and we also need people. We need to be able to depend on ourselves and depend on others. But our culture right now glorifies hyper independence for sure.
Well, yeah, you're very interdependent.
Sorry, immediately I go to ABA terms. I'm like, group contingencies.
No,
Yeah,
like-
no, I am.
like
I
you-
I
you
can take care of
totally-
myself, but I love,
but you
yeah, but I
love-
love people around me.
As like, I hate people that help me. I not hate people that help me. I feel weak when people help me. I feel like I could
I
do
love
this
taking
myself.
any help from someone. I could do things, but I love to take help.
I know, and I admire that about you, because I'm like, oh my god, her life seems like just a little bit easier because she doesn't feel that need to be like Superwoman, where it's like, oh no, I
Yeah.
can do everything, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're like, all right, sure, you want to. What I admire the most is like things when I'm with her in person that I would be like, oh, well, I'll just do. She's like, oh, or I can call my dad, or like, so because like we're kind of doing something else, so like that person can help us, and I'm like, they can help? Like what? Like I don't even know what that means. So I'm like, it's just that's also why I find Liat like
That's why
when
she's
I'm
coming to live here, because she needs to have the supportive, loving environment.
interdependent.
Interdependent. I love it.
Well, also, I don't
love
think
it.
I like with my like life, I don't think that I could like even like make it through with like, I mean, even if I was like hyper independent, the amount of directions I'm being pulled in,
Yeah.
I would like be. I mean, also once I got health issues, it was like, okay, I got to take help from other people, because like otherwise I
Mhm.
will be hospitalized with a lupus flare up. So like, take the help or I'm hospitalized, and
Totally.
But
Yeah, people change. Sometimes we're forced to change, but we're all capable of it. We can learn new ways of being.
so I love this, and as I'm reading it, just this one is, I don't know if I want a relationship. I'll focus on my career. Do I really want the responsibility of a partner? What if I let them down? Am I settling? Is this person good enough for me? Am I ready for commitment? That sounds horrible. I'll be trapped the rest of my life. Now, moving on to disorganized.
Yes, disorganized attachment. This is where you really want connection, but you're also deeply afraid of it. So you have fear of abandonment and you also have fear of intimacy. So this makes for very painful dating experiences. Things that people need to realize though with disorganized attachment, it's not that you have both of those strategies and you're just using them at different times. It's usually like a up and down in a short period of time. So you go avoidant to anxious, like a pendulum swing. And this is why it's so confusing. So you can have anxious and avoidant strategies, but if they're not happening like that pendulum swing, then that's technically not a disorganized attachment style. People don't specify this, so I always like to say it. But for example, like disorganized attachment, you have a great date with your partner. Maybe you're feeling anxious. You're like, oh, do they like me? You're wanting all the reassurance. You're asking them to tell them that they love you. And then maybe they tell you, I do love you. I want to be with you. And you're like, oh, I don't know about this. And you book a flight to Cabo the next day. You're like, I don't think this is right for me. So notice like the swing in behavior
Impulsive
of
too, huh?
impulsive. Yeah. Definitely connected to childhood trauma, can be connected with different personality disorders. Like this is a less common attachment style, but there are people that meet criteria for this. And I do see a lot of them because their dating lives are very, very painful and confusing.
And it's hard to like, I mean, I do feel like being able to, what we use as the word is tact, or like label, like when you like find out like, oh, this is why I've been having all these issues with my stomach. Like you're like, it's nice to be able to identify it, or like, oh, this is why I seem to be like ending every relationship, because you're like, oh, I fit into the avoidant. But I feel like this, like you're saying, could lead to a lot of pain, because it's like harder to put your finger on, like in terms of
Yeah.
identifying as like, this is a consistent theme.
Yes, exactly. This can be so confusing for people because they'll get in relationships and they're really in love and they're really anxious and they really want it to work out, and the next minute they're like, I don't give a shit about that person. I'm going to go date somebody else. Like there's the swing of it is really painful and confusing for people.
So can just wondering, like, in these things, so these are obviously like the attachment styles that are, we say like from when we were young, let's say, and I know they could change over time, but can things such as, like, let's say, and I know a lot of words are overused, but let's say like someone has like narcissism, okay? Like that seems like something separate than these. Like they
Yep.
right? Like that's something that could be like a confounding
You're
variable
talking about
potentially.
you're talking about one of my biggest pet peeves, which is when people call people with avoidant attachment style a narcissist.
No, they're
That
like
gets
totally different because I've
They're
dated both.
different. Yeah, me too. They're very different because with a narcissist, the intent is to control and manipulate. With avoidant attachment, the intent is I need to keep myself safe. I'm scared of intimacy. So
And it's not
very
that you don't have
different intents.
empathy. Like when you're a narcissist, like you really
Yes.
are lacking empathy. It doesn't mean that you're
Yes.
lacking empathy because
Yeah.
you're avoidant. I
Exactly.
think actually
Avoidantly
more so. You
attached.
may be
Yeah.
like, well, I don't want to cause anyone harm, so I'd rather, right?
Yeah, they're very different. They're very different, but I think in our culture, like especially online, people who don't really know these differences, they're throwing around, "Oh, that person's a narcissist," when actually they probably just have an avoidant attachment style.
Right. So, okay. That is interesting. And so some of the disorganized attachment thoughts are, as quoted here, I'd like to date, but how could I trust anyone? If I trust someone, they're likely to hurt me. I need to stay prepared to leave. If I threaten to leave the relationship, they can prove they love me by begging me to stay. I wish relationships weren't so emotionally draining and exhausting. My dating life is negatively impacting my career, my friendships, and my family relationships. I don't think I'll ever be capable of being in a quote unquote normal relationship. And these people lack self-soothing skills and are often emotionally volatile.
Yep.
And practicing push and pull dynamics in relationships.
That's that swing.
The swing.
I'm going to pull you in tight and then I'm going to push you right away.
Yes, that's a great. Thank you for saying that. The pull you in and then push you away. If you get too close, I'm going to push you away.
Yeah, and if you're too far away, I'm going to pull you back in. And I'm going to F with your mind. And
yeah, exactly. And
get
think
close.
about
Get
it.
away, get close. No, get away. It's way too much.
These are people where chaos was the norm in their childhoods, where maybe they had a parent who was present for a little bit and then would go away, or they could have been in the foster home, like who knows, but they had chaos in their childhoods. So they recreate a lot of chaos in their dating lives.
I can see that.
Very painful.
When like when you're talking about the anxious and the avoidant, like it's that clear, like stable, whether I'm not using stable as a term as they're stable in the sense of like consistent, whereas it's disorganized is like you almost thrive on that
instability
swing. Yeah, that like absolute like out of control, like what's going on.
Are they in my life? Are they out of my life? Are they in my life? Are they out of my life? Yeah,
I've seen that. Yeah.
Also, when we did our podcast with Dr. Ingrid, she had said like we were talking about like how you again, and I guess we're talking about it today too. You're looking for like that is your comfort of that like, oh, I'm actually all set up for this. I know exactly how to deal with someone who is not emotionally available to me, so I'd rather do that. We spoke about that today too. I'm sorry, my brain is all over.
I want to hear about secure though. Let's get to like what I aim to be.
Secure. Yeah,
this is my hashtag goals. Okay.
So secure is this beautiful place where you say, I value myself and I value my partner. I value my needs and I value my partner's needs. I can self-soothe and I also want to be there for my partner. And you really do value connection and relationships, and you know that they're important, and you make time, and you're able to set boundaries. You're able to communicate your needs. You're able to express your emotions, right? You're emotionally available, and you enjoy relationships. It's so funny. It's like before I learned about secure attachment and became secure, I just had so much pain in relationships. I didn't even enjoy them, right? But with secure attachment, you enjoy connection and relationships and dating, and it feels good.
Okay, Dr. Morgan, how can we get there?
So I'm gonna give you some of your bullet points from your book in case anyone wants to know more, like which one you sit in. Okay, this is you practice that open, honest communication. You could maintain personal fulfillment and co-create partner fulfillment. Express reassurance, and you could ask for reassurance at times because there are times that someone needs like the assurance, like, "Hey, are we good? Is everything fine?"
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
Like
Especially early stages of dating, we need more reassurance. And then as we develop more secure attachment, the less reassurance we need, but we need reassurance for healthy relationships.
Yep. Easily expresses emotional experience. This is literally, this part is, I told you, like, if I'm like, I will be like, I am so happy right now. I just want you to know, like, what more could we want? We're sitting with a beautiful sunset. And like, I think sometimes some people who are like petrified of emotions are like, ugh, you know? Okay. The thoughts of a secure attachment are: I value my partner and the life we are building together. I appreciate my partner's strengths and the way we work together as a team. My needs matter. My partner's needs matter. How can I better support my partner? How can I ask for what I need so that my partner can hear it? Those are some of them in there. So I have a few questions here. Is it possible that any combo can work?
So I believe that both people have to be aware of what their attachment style is, and both people have to want to co-create secure attachment and be willing to do the work. There are times when you just haven't moved enough towards secure to probably be able to create a healthy relationship. But I do think that if you're willing to do the work, you can really make it work. So it's not black and
Thank
white.
God.
So what does it take? I mean, you've already seen, like, if we look at like certain things you say, Case, it's like you've already been pushing.
Oh, aware. No, that's what I'm saying. Like the
Yeah.
awareness of it is, it's almost like acceptance is the first step, right?
Oh,
like
for sure,
awareness
yeah.
is the first step.
Yeah, it's
Like
so
if
funny.
I came on here today and was like, oh my God, Liat, I actually took the quiz and I am 100% secure. So I don't really know what you're talking about.
Which the actual funny thing is, it actually shows where you were, like, when I read this book 6 months or 9 months ago, I don't know, after my divorce. And I was like, oh my God, look at this. Isn't this so interesting? Which of these do you check off? You told me you were like 95% secure. And I was just like, awesome.
Like, okay, cool. Mm-hmm.
Awareness.
No, absolutely. Awareness is great. It's good to know.
Yeah.
You can't do anything unless you're able to admit it.
So, but it's not like, it's like you could be in a relationship if you're both are, let's say, but it doesn't mean you'll be happy in it, right? It's like, but you're talking about like a healthy relationship. It's like sure, two anxious people could be together, but does it necessarily, like, right? You're talking about like how to create
building a great relationship. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I always tell people anyone can have a relationship, but if you want to have a great relationship, you need to be able to build secure attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So how can someone work on building these things? Obviously, we're going to put all your information in the show notes where anyone could find you. And because I know you offer different programs and such, but just if you were going to give like okay, I'm going to give you a prompt, giving someone hope that they could, move towards these things and like maybe some things they could do. And also, by the way, anyone reading the book, there's like a lot of exercises in here that you could also do, which is awesome. But what would you say to someone who maybe is listening right now and is like, I'm literally so fucked. I know I'm like such an anxious attachment person or I'm so much of whatever. What would you say?
I would want them to know that they're not alone and that they really can heal. And I always tell people, if I can heal, anyone can heal, because I had so much I had to work on. But you can move towards secure attachment. Your past relationships do not have to determine your future relationships. You can always change the relationship that you're going to have. And it starts, of course, this is so cliche, but I would say start with the relationship that you have with yourself. Start with the belief systems that we talked about at the beginning of this episode, really looking at like, what are my belief systems that are running the show? And realize that you need to begin to develop the identity of your securely attached self. So I'll always tell my clients, like, what would securely attached Casey do? Like you insert your name, right? What would the securely attached version of me do? And you start working on that identity and building those belief systems. And obviously, over time, you just show up more and more that way. But it starts with awareness, and it starts with you looking at your belief systems and becoming aware of, hey, what is the securely attached version of me?
Do you think sometimes having help to do this, like potentially, like when I think of back when I did like CBT years ago for like a different stage of my life, it wasn't necessarily about attachment styles at all, but it was about other things in my life. And like I said things so factually, and they'd be like, and I'd be like, yeah, no, but that's, I couldn't do that because of this. And they're like, you couldn't do it because of why? And I'd be like, oh, because he was there first. I have no idea. I'm just making up a random sentence. I don't remember. He had other therapy since then, but it was the idea of like, it when something's a belief, it is like your truth, right? Like you believe, like to you, you look at that as like, this is it. This is the answer. So kind of being able to like sometimes have someone to ask you these questions back, which like, I don't know, like have a good friend, like maybe like Casey in the past. I'm like, so you love boat races, like, or something like that. And it's like, they might get pissed at you. I'm just saying. I don't know.
I think
yeah. No, but
like
it could be hard.
Having accountability. I mean, that's why I built a program for this, because, we have coaches and there's structure and there's accountability and homework check-ins. It's hard to do this work. It's not a walk in the park, right? If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would have great relationships. It's really challenging. So I think just to have support and to have somebody who's holding you accountable to it, so helpful. If you are like really ready to do it, then there's so much in the book that if you know that you'll do it, you could do a lot on your own just by reading the book.
Totally. Kind of like our classes we teach. It's like if you could watch our videos by yourself if you want, but if you need accountability and like a place to show up with other people, that's like
community.
Different people need like different things, but
totally.
I mean, the way
I don't like doing things alone. It's like I love, like we have a private group where all the women will talk together about what they're learning, and I just love seeing community and people supporting one another. So I do think if you're ready and you want community and you want to really rewire your brain for a great relationship, then consider doing a program, whether it's mine or someone else's. But just having structured accountability makes such a difference.
So much.
So, guys, there's hope for everyone. And
this was a great conversation. Thank you.
What? Securely attached people end up with not successful relationships too at times. So don't worry, guys. Look at me.
It's not equal perfect. I read that.
Right. Yeah. So just
secure is not perfect. Yes.
You never know. But just being able to identify these different parts of yourself is helpful in so many areas of life, in attachment and the way you respond to, like, I don't know, I've seen different things, like your relationship with money, your relationship with others, your relationship with this. It's, it's just interesting to understand yourself better. So, Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I feel like we could have talked for like 3 hours. So
I'm reining it in. I'm reining it in. And I told you I'm very vocal. I just want to tell you that, like, I love this conversation so much. I love what you share. I love your content. I felt so happy this entire time doing this podcast. So thank you so much. And I had a stomach ache before. I just want to throw it out there that it's gotten better since talking to you.
Aw, that's sweet.
Thank you so much. I love what you ladies are doing. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad that we're connected, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. That'd be fun.
There's a lot of different areas in the book I want to touch into. So we definitely should do a part 2.
And if anyone's listening, all of her information is going to be in the show notes. So you know where to find
Can you just tell us, or anyone listening, we're going to put in the show notes, but also tell us where we could find you.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram probably the most, and my handle is Dr. Morgan Coaching, Dr. Morgan Coaching. And then my podcast as well, Let's Get Vulnerable, 2 episodes a week. That's probably where I put like my best content, honestly, is there. Yeah.
2 episodes a week, guys. That is intense. That's like amazing. Go you, and you do it yourself. I mean, It's a lot of work
Thank you.
podcasting, just so everyone knows that we love
It
you and
is,
continue to do it.
and I love it, and as you know, it's so rewarding to help people and
Yes.
just get the information
I
out.
feel like you
So
could like get it out to masses, and I love talking to really cool people like you. So
that's right. That's right.
makes it worth it.
Thank you so much, Liat and Casey, for having me.
Of course. Thank you. Guys, you know where to find us. You could find us on Instagram at Behavior Bitches Podcast, on Facebook at Behavior Bitches Podcast. You could find us on our website, behaviorbitches.com. Go leave us a 5-star review in the Apple Podcast app. No pressure, but seriously, you should feel pressure to go leave a 5-star review or none at all. And if you don't have an iPhone, go buy an iPhone because that's the only place we could read them. No, I'm just kidding. We like Androids too. But with that, that's all we have for today. So as always, love ya.
Mean it. Perfect timing. Wow, I was like about to
I know, I
burst at
kept
the seam.
talking.